Hey, and welcome back to This Woman Can. I am your host, Janice Sutherland, career strategist for the Black woman over 40. Now, let me ask you a question. Has there been times where you have stopped yourself from saying something or having a conversation because you were more concerned about how the receptee would receive your message rather than the message you wanted to get across? For instance, there were things that I would never say when I first started doing this podcast, that it was specifically for black women because I didn't want to upset white women. And I was more concerned about how they felt about, feeling like they were being excluded from the podcast rather than focusing on the message that I was really trying to get to convey and who I really wanted to help. So my message this week, my message or the focus this week for this week's podcast is to say to you is you are not responsible for how other people receive your message. But let me caveat that first of all. I want to say, if you've taken all the steps to ensure that your communication is clear, and by that I mean your tone, the words you use, your body language, and you haven't been shouting, you've not been offensive, then you're not responsible for how other people receive your message. I want to put that into context in how that came about for me this week when I was writing this, is that one of my clients, a successful black female executive, described a scenario where she was butting heads. She was butting heads with her male counterpart who was refusing to undergo some training. They had a few words. It was a bit awkward, and the training had been agreed for him to support her in her role. The situation, it was eventually smoothed out. They had a meeting with the superior and everything seemed to be floating along, swimmingly. But I could sense that it wasn't okay. It wasn't okay with her because her demeanour and language indicated that they weren't. So when I probed a little bit further and asked her what was going on, she just said he hasn't apologised for his conduct. And I pointed out there was obviously a sticking point in her relationship, a working relationship. So why hadn't she addressed it? And her response was that I don't think he would take it well. And my feedback to that was, well, whose boundaries was he crossing by his behaviour? And who was actually being impacted by her not addressing the situation? Because the truth is, people don't care about your boundaries when you're at work unless you care about them. And what I see are many black women struggling to set workplace boundaries. Now, there are a number of factors that can contribute to that issue, from there being cultural norms to gender biases, personal insecurities, external pressures. I understand all that. And often we've been taught that what other people need from us is far more important than how we're feeling, which is why we get to where we are and why we feel the need that others' needs, or we feel the need, should I say, to put others' needs ahead of our own. But creating those boundaries at work are essential. It's important. It's essential because they help everyone, you especially, feel psychologically and emotionally safe, and in turn be more productive, because it also helps to maintain good social dynamics at work. And clearly defined boundaries helps to keep that work environment professional. And that again has benefits because it improves the interactions you have. It discourages inappropriate requests from managers or maybe team members, or the refusal there I talked about earlier. Situations where your personal values and priorities can sometimes be disregarded. So how do you go about that? How do you go about setting your boundaries? So let me share a few measures you can take when your boundaries have been violated. The first thing is to know that you're in charge. You're the one in control. You're the one in charge. And if someone is repeatedly violating a boundary and impacting, it's impacting you. Don't question the validity of your feelings. Don't question yourself. You've got to take charge of the situation. You've got to do that by articulating the boundary. Before taking those steps to handle the violator, you've got to clearly know the exact boundary that was violated. And without you being able to do so, you won't be able to communicate effectively with the person. They'll wonder what all the fuss was about. You want to inform the person that there's a problem. And sometimes this is perhaps the most important thing, because if you don't let them know that there's a problem, what do you think's going to happen? They're going to keep on doing it. So let the person know that their behaviour right now, how they're doing it, is unacceptable. And you want to be confident. Be confident when communicating about your boundaries. You've got to be firm. You've got to be firm in setting them. Otherwise, they won't be taken seriously. And the individual who the boundary breaker will continue crossing the line. Now, I understand it can seem a little intimidating at first when you're talking about boundaries and, protecting those boundaries. But building and maintaining boundaries, yes, it does take time and practice. Yes, boundaries will get crossed. Side steps will be taken. They will try to violate your boundaries. But instead of viewing those violations as negatives, see them as opportunities, gain more insight, and improve on your boundary setting. Always be focusing on that. So, like I said, you're not responsible for how other people receive your message, as long as you have been clear in what you're trying to articulate. So if that has really spiked your interest, should I say, it's things like this we'll be talking about in the This Woman Can community. It's an online community that I've created specifically for Black women over 40, Black female professionals who want to have that open and honest discussions, an open, honest platform where they can discuss things that are really pertinent to them, things that really impact them on a day-to-day basis without feeling like they're being judged. So that's what you're going to get, and more, in the This Woman Can community. I'm inviting you to join for free right now. I want you to head over to my website, janicesutherland.com. Press that community tab to find out more, but more importantly, to join. You've got nothing to lose, but everything to gain, and I would love to have you join me. So as always, remember, if I can, you can, this woman can, and I really look forward to seeing you in the community. Take care.